Hey everyone, welcome back to Tactical Magic. This is Molly Mandelberg, your host, and I'm very excited to have one of my dear friends and an amazing world-class coach on the line with me today. We're going to be talking about your energy and clearing it and how to be a successful, badass entrepreneur. So stay tuned. We'll be back in just a second. It's not just about mastering technology. It's not just about brand or messaging. It's not just about making more money. It's about showing up in a big way so your people can find you. This is about bringing your most wild and authentic self into the hustle and grind. Welcome to Tactical Magic, a business strategies podcast for the warrior goddess entrepreneur. Okay, Penelope Bell is an engaging teacher and has been an entrepreneur for over 35 years. She coaches entrepreneurial leaders internationally, and her clients collectively share a passion for ongoing positive change in the world. They are all discovering how to be relaxed, happy, badasses who have a great impact. Welcome to the show, Penelope.
Thank you, Molly. I'm so happy to be with you.
Yay, I'm so glad to have you here too. So tell us a little bit more about you and what you do and how you got into the journey that you're on right now.
Oh, wow. That's a big question.
Whatever comes up.
Where to start? Well, first thought is that I was raised a preacher's kid, and our dad was radical in that he didn't prescribe our spiritual journeys. And he fundamentally believed that spirit was found through the fallible human in front of us, and that our job was to literally be out on the streets connecting with human beings and making a difference in the world. So that was a huge influence in my entire, very extended, very inclusive family's value system. So we were raised to believe that we have the ability to make a difference. And being raised, the first thing I ever remember watching on TV was Kennedy's funeral when I was 3 years old. And so there was this place about every one of us should try. And so that's really the deep roots of my beginning of doing all of this. And then I'm a trauma survivor. And that took me out, or that's what it seemed like for a long time, of being on my purpose and having a higher functioning life, having stability, having all those things. So I went deep into personal development and healing, thinking there was something wrong with me, and many years into it was like, oh shit, there's nothing wrong with me. Why did I spend all that money? All of that time? And then it was like, oh no, you got so many tools, you learned so many things. And so that became the evolution into how it is that I work with all of my clients, is that I hold this benign reality of how completely good all humans are. And anything other than that is hurt, distress, some way that we've gotten cut off from ourselves. And so that's the space that I hold for people, that everyone is fully intelligent. Everyone wants to be connected with each other, and everyone is completely good. And anything other than that is something we get to just clear out. So that's the evolution, now that I've become an elder, that it's like, what can I do now to help hold space for more and more and more people? And that's what led me into working with leaders, because when I really saw that leaders have influence over large groups of people, and if I'm helping clear that leader, then they're able to create culture and create environments where other people can evolve into their highest selves. And so that's really where the core of my legacy work began, which was about 14 years ago. When I took that on. And wow. And it's been evolving and growing ever since. So yeah.
It's been beautiful to watch your journey with that unfolding too. So one of the ways that you support leaders to create those spaces and to cultivate the culture of growth and of community is through something called mind clearing. Would you tell us a little bit more about what that is and how that works?
So I got exposed to clearing through a group that is up in Canada called Warrior Sage. So Satyan Raja is the charismatic lead of that. And one of my lovers was actually dating. This is a funny story. He was dating, when spirit conspires in our good. he was dating two women. I was one of them. I told him that I wasn't going to be the one. So go ahead and date other people, which he did, the rascal. And two of them signed up for all these programs with Warrior Sage. And in the course of them doing that work together, they both woke up to the fact that he needed to be with me and she needed to be with her ex-fiance. And she just said, you know what? Just give these programs to Penelope with my blessing. And I'd wanted a man who was doing spiritual work. And he came and he said, hey, come do these enlightenment intensives with me. And I was like, I don't want to do any more work, but this is what I asked God for. So, okay, I'll go in and do some more work. So I started doing the enlightenment intensives, and they profoundly changed my experience of having direct contact in a way that I'd never experienced before. And then Satyen started talking about his teacher, Anjali, and she was doing these programs called Living from Truth. And so I started doing Living from Truth. I went to Satyen's teacher. And then Anjali started talking about Lawrence, who was teaching clearing. And I was like, and he was also the one that was teaching all of them how to do the enlightenment intensives. And I went to Anjali's teacher, Lawrence, and it was his wife at the time who gave me my first clearing session. And it was all about what is it that I'm supposed to be doing? And what kept coming up in that first clearing session was, I need to be doing clearing with women who were world leaders. But I had the self-esteem of pond scum. So what kept coming up was, I can't do that. I can't do that. I can't do that. And it just kept coming up. And finally, it was just like this huge surrender to, even though my mind didn't think I could do that, that's what I'm supposed to be doing. And so that led me into the training. It was like, okay, I'm going to do clearing. I'm going to do this. And then in my own journey through clearing, what I experienced was freedom like I've never experienced before, as far as being able to get off of all of my neurotic behaviors and patterns, ways of being. It was just like the most efficient. I'd done decades of work. And of all of the processes that I'd been exposed to, it was the most effective. And it tied in both mind, emotion, and spiritual contact. It was like the full meal deal. And I did a 2-week intensive with Anjali. And in the middle of that intensive, I realized this is what I was supposed to be doing. And I didn't have enough money to finish my master's degree and go through an unpaid internship in psychology and learned mind clearing. So I dropped out of graduate school and I started training with Lawrence, much to the horror of my family, who were like, oh, she's finally going on a traditional path. And I was like, yeah, 3/4 of the way through. Sorry. And my mom was like, is he at least certified? And I was like, no, Mom, he's just the only dude in the world teaching it. And so that's how I got into that. And then what's happened is the results that I've had in my own life have been extraordinary, but the results that I'm getting to see in my clients' life, it's like, it's like one of the most, the word, tricky places as a coach, counselor, as you know, is there's this, for me and so many other people I've talked to, there's this niggling doubt that our clients aren't getting the results they really want, and we're not quite sure how to help them get there. And one of the things with my immersion in clearing is that I have all these processes that I never doubt my clients' results ever. And that's just, I mean, talk about job satisfaction. It's like really amazing stuff. But a lot of it for me personally had to do with learning how to create and identify where a clean and healthy boundary is. And because I'm a trauma survivor, that was really confusing to me, because if your boundaries have been violated, you don't know where they are. And so one of the many things that we go into with clearing has to do with healthy boundary formation. But for me, that was like time. What's my business? What's your business? What's God's business? All that Byron Katie stuff had like really helped me identify all of those things and be at choice about whether I'm open or closed, or a yes or a no, or that's just one thing, but it really made a difference. And both my daughter and my best friend, who were sick and tired of me seeing me go through training after training after training, they're like, when are you going to be done? They both came to me independently without my asking, saying, whatever it is you're doing differently, don't ever stop. And so for me to get that kind of immediate feedback from people that know me so well was just solidified my journey.
Yeah, it's amazing. What are some of the other things you notice from your clients who receive the clearing work?
Well, clarity. Number one is clarity. Brandon Burchard got, his high performance habits. Number one is clarity. I help people get clear. And it doesn't matter what topic they're dealing with. So number one is clarity. It's like, what's the actual problem? And a lot of times, I mean, you know, I hung up my shingle in 2008 doing this and everybody was like, the problem is money. I'm like, what's your stress point? Money, money, money. 9 out of 10 times, literally after that initial session, literally 9 out of 10 of those first sessions, people said, it's not money. I'm like, right? What is it really? So and the one person was like, yeah, you're screwed. It is money and you need to figure out something with that. And so, you know, and then we come with the project, the action. So clarity is one of them. The other thing is communication mastery, because most of the static in our minds are created by incomplete communication, either because we weren't able to get ourselves across, or the other person isn't listening, or some weird thing in between, and not wanting to hurt other people's feelings, all of that. So there's this process that we do in session that just help people get the stack up out the good, you know, I call it composting.
Mm-hmm.
And they get to do the compost, and then the static comes down and they're able to go, oh, what is it that I really want this person to know? Or what is it that what's the need that's not getting met, or what, you know, all those different things. So getting clear, mastering communication, mastering boundaries, and learning. I mean, in the mastering of boundaries is learning about when to be open and when to be more protected, because frequently we get really confused there. And then the other thing that part of clearing that I bring to people is and I know I'm talking about processing, but these are the things that people are getting. There's a 3-dimensional like masterminding thing that I bring in. So it's out of their heads and on the table, and we can move pieces around, and then people go, oh, because they're seeing it. So many of us are so visual. And it gets it out of the head and onto the table, and then they can zoom out and not be in it in the same way. So it helps them detach from the problem, which is very helpful when things are complex. And absolutely. I have clients all the time say, wow, remember when you did that? I have tchotchkes and crystals and all sorts of shit. I just love playing with them. You brought out all your toys. Like, I still remember that, you know? And so it's like, we need to do that again. One of my clients is buying 3 new clinics, and she's like, we have to sit down and do a model again.
Mm-hmm. I love that.
Yeah. So it's just like, just giving them as many tools as possible. That's a lot of what happens, but they're efficient. And for me, it's just like from the old fashioned, because I'm old school. I started a long time ago. It's kind of old fashioned exploratory surgery, you know, old school counseling, where you just open everything up and see what you find.
Mm-hmm.
And this is like, get clear about what the problem is, drill on that until it's clean.
Mm-hmm.
And then what's the next thing you want to focus on? And then drill on that. So it's like very laser.
Yeah. Laser coaching. I love the idea of that 3D model as a tool too, because there's so many people who are kinesthetic or who are visual and not necessarily good at processing audio or verbally necessarily. So having another aspect that really hits on that point, I'm sure is super helpful for some people. Also, that does give you a higher vantage point. And whenever we're able to expand our awareness to see the whole picture at once, we're immediately less engulfed in an issue. So that sounds really powerful.
Oh, it's so amazing. And it's like, what do you really want? What else? What else? What else? Sometimes we'll spend the entire session on just what they want. And they're like, wow, it's not just this, it's like this whole life. And so people are like, you're a life coach. I'm saying, I'm not a life coach, but your whole life will go better.
Yeah. Well, everything is so connected that who you're being anywhere is who you're being everywhere. I forget who said that, but to take it as one piece at a time, there's a ripple effect of changing absolutely anything in your life. And I think if people were to realize that, it's easier to get specific because we don't have to fix everything at once. One thing will ripple out into the rest of our lives. Yeah.
Yes.
Powerful stuff.
Yeah. So how are you changing your world? I'm planting strawberries.
Yeah. So in a minute, I want to talk about the power of getting support from someone like you or from getting support in general. But before that, for the people who maybe can't invest in working with you right now, or who, aren't ready to quite take the leap, what are some things people can start paying attention to right now to get more clarity or to start stepping into a place where they might be ready for support?
One of the things that I find, especially with female-born humans, is that we haven't been conditioned to be in an inquiry about what we really, really want. We've been so conditioned to anticipate, accommodate, and serve others that the one of the number one things that I found in every woman client, myself included, is when asked the question, what do you really want? There's like this black hole. There's kind of a gap. There's like, what? I know you're speaking English feeling, and it's like, so one of the things that I really highly recommend for everybody to do is to be in, what do I really want now? What's calling now? What would bring me the most pleasure now? Being in that inquiry. It's like, and when you take on a direction, like one of the things I identified, that one of the things that was keeping me stuck was being isolated. There was a past, solopreneur, single mom, just a pattern of trying to do things by myself as if that was the higher value. I realized that isolation was a big thing. So I actually took on as a direction, interrupting isolation. And I took it on for a couple of years. And so it's just like, for people, it's like, what is it? What's the actual barrier? How could I move through that? What's a way that I could get that? So much of it has to do with, where is it? Am I really heading? Where's true north?
Mm-hmm.
So being in an inquiry with that is extremely helpful.
Yeah, absolutely. And questioning the things that you think you desire already. Sometimes we adopt, the kid or the husband or the house as the dream that has been projected onto us, and getting really clear on what's your dream, and even something you think you've wanted your whole life because you've always said you wanted that. That's allowed to change. You might not still want that particular, fantasy or dream to come to fruition anymore. And if you're in inquiry about it and you're asking yourself if that really lights you up still, then you get to decide if that's still the target, or if it's evolved or changed or adjusted in some way. And yeah, I think having a regular inquiry about that, one way I do that is just by weekly writing down what my targets or my goals or my dreams are. And, sometimes I get out of that practice and it's more of a monthly thing, but to recheck back in, is this still true for me? Do I still want this? Is this still the vision that I have for myself? And if not, then what sounds light to me right now? Not to necessarily project everything into the future, because there's so much value to be had in living in the here and now, but also big dreams can come to fruition once we name them and start, like you said, drilling away at how to actualize that.
Yeah. And I've been in that. It's like, do you really want to do this? I know you've said you've wanted to do this. Do you really want to do this? And giving myself permission to let it go. Just in my mind for a while, it's like, just let it go and see what happens. Just let it go.
Yeah.
And then I can observe, it's like my body's going, no, that's like, we're noticing it keeps coming up. It keeps coming up. It's like that whole thing about, working with world leaders. It kept bugging me.
Yeah.
But there's something so freeing about just saying, okay, I'm letting it all go.
Yeah.
And different choices come up, and more freedom around the choice comes up.
And more ideas and more insights, more opportunities. And sometimes it becomes the same dream again, only that space that you gave it allowed it to gestate or evolve in some way for you. Yeah. It's really powerful. The act of releasing anything in general is really powerful. I'm hearing myself say words that I need to hear right now, which is always fun.
This is really good. One of the things that I really love about clearing, that I also got in reevaluation counseling, is contemplate the opposite.
Mm-hmm.
And it doesn't matter what it is. Just get out of that one groove. It's like, everything's going to be okay. So I was rigidly optimistic. Okay. I have a fixed state, like clinically optimistic. I think a lot of entrepreneurs are. We're like, it's going to work, man. I don't know how it's going to work. It's going to work. And I was like, and I gave myself a clearing session one time, and I'm going to swear. I was like, I gave myself the opposite. It's like, I'm fucked. I've made all the wrong choices. I'm going to be a burden to my family. I'm never going to figure it out. I've made the wrong choices every step of the way. I'm screwed. And I cried and I cried and I cried. And I just like felt the failure that I'd been fighting for so long. And within 20 minutes of giving myself that session, this font of ideas came out, and my business has never been the same.
Beautiful.
It's what had me finally leap full blown into doing Thrive and figuring out client attraction, so that part of my stability is handled now.
Yeah.
But it was that, like, can I get off that rigid state and contemplate the opposite?
Right. I mean, it sounds like the optimism was almost like a mask we were using to avoid the fear, the underlying fear, which is that I will fail or that I have failed or something. And to actually fully embody that and to stop resisting those shadow emotions or whatever. When we allow them to live, they don't have to be the state that's controlling us anymore. We can feel them and they can move, and then we can see what else is true. I'm rereading Existential Kink right now. I think I might have mentioned it on another recent episode.
No, I like that. I want to read it. Okay.
It's fantastic. Definitely read it. And anyone out there listening, it's by Carolyn Elliott. I always forget her name, but Existential Kink is basically about finding the pleasure in what we don't want so we can have more of what we do want. And part of that practice that they outline in the book is to literally feel the base feelings, the feelings that you've been trying to avoid, trying to push away, the jealousy, the shame, the guilt, the grief, and actually, as the infinite being you truly are, glean pleasure from them. To notice that if you're an infinite being here in a physical body, to play out this drama, that you actually chose uncomfortable situations so that you could have this like adventure figuring it out, and to find that the challenge is part of the pleasure, is part of the joy, is part of the entertainment, is to, like you said, suddenly see something else possible arise, or have that font of new inspiration ideas, or actually see your physical reality change. But you can't do it to practice from a place of trying to change things. You do it from a place of total acceptance and allowance, and like really embracing everything that's showing up, which is really beautiful.
Oh my God. And it's so important. And we have such a culture of pretense. We have such an awful culture of pretense. I mean, I cannot tell you how many women organization networking events I went to. It was like, well, everybody else here has their thing together. How many people, how many clients have told me that? How many colleagues have told me that? How many just acquaintances? It was just like, I can't do that. Everybody else is so much farther ahead than I am. And because of my position in intimacy in people's lives, I can't tell you how many people have been in a fetal position, like that session I was talking about in the tub, which is where some of my best work is done. But how many people have literally been on a fetal position on the bathroom floor sobbing because of how hard it's been and how alone they feel, and that they feel like they can't figure it out. And we've all been there. Like you said, it's like when we're able to like actually surrender into that, there's amazing things that come up on the other side of it.
Mm-hmm. The more we resist those feelings, the more they persist.
Right.
Yeah.
But it's like we're walking around this huge illusion that everybody's not there.
Mm-hmm. Yeah. And it takes power to choose to get support, which sort of segues into, I love how you shared how obsessed with learning and gaining new skills and, digging into personal growth and personal development you've been in your life. And I personally am very much in the same boat, that I have found a passion for being resourced with not just tools and information, but also mentorship and guidance and support and backup. And sometimes that looks like a coach or a therapist. Sometimes that looks like books to dig into. Sometimes that looks like community to have your back. But it's such a powerful way to level up and to expand beyond what you thought was possible before, when you're in a harder state. Yeah. And I have been blessed to know Penelope for many years now, but more recently,
6 years. Yeah.
6 years. More recently, you've joined me in my Magnetic Influencer Collective program. So I'd love to hear how that's gone for you, how that maybe has supported your business in some ways over the last 6 or 7 months since you got started in there.
Okay. So one of the drums I beat with everybody, be them client, family, friend, whatever, is, and I don't know who said it, but it was one of my clients was quoting it: the most successful people are getting the most support. And so I really, just coming back to women, I love women so much. I don't hate men. I don't want anybody to hear that. It's just that I particularly love that women are lifelong learners and bring everybody along with us. There's this ongoing education, inclusion, bring everybody along. There's just like this thing. And so because I'm a solopreneur and I work with people via Zoom all over the world, I'm alone a lot. And so one of the things that drew me into working with you was that I wanted colleagues, I wanted a cohort, I wanted a tribe of people that were doing the same thing that I'm doing. We're in these little satellites and these, we're all over the place, called to make a difference in the world. and up against our own internalized sexism and our own internalized whatever. And if there's something about being in a room with other people, and Zoom rooms are the same for me. I make no distinction any longer. It's just being in the room with other people. Just it comforts me, because when my itty bitty shitty committee is going, it's like, oh, there's another who's being very successful, who's still or not so successful, or who's failing. You know, there's somebody who's tanking over there. It's like, oh, I'm not the only one who tried something and failed again. Tried it again. Oh, so there's all that stuff. So getting company with both the wins and the failures, so important to me. The other thing that drew me to you is that I had spent so much time on my craft and my own personal development, spiritual work, which I'll never stop, but I hadn't invested the same in my business. And so I feel like I've reached a mastery in processing and knowing my own weather report and where to get help in those realms. But I was really still floundering with where I got stuck in my business about structure, automations, things that it's like, this is not my jam. Technology is not my jam. I'm getting better and better and better at it.
Yes, you are.
Still, it's not the thing that's like, oh, I can't wait to accept, you know, with working with you. I'm like, I've got a new, I know it's standard, but I think of it, simple operating process is what I call it. That's what I call my SOPs. That's like, people are like, what's an SOP? And I'm like, I know what that is now, thanks to Molly. So one of the reasons why I said yes to signing up to do a journey with you is because of both your metaphysical and spiritual grounding, which speaks to my whole experience, coupled with how are you actually doing the structure so that you have free time and energy to work with the people that I'm working with.
Mm-hmm.
Because I reinvent the wheel every fucking time. And it's just like so stupid. It's so stupid. And working with you is creating all of these systems that are making it easier and easier and easier for me to actually work in my business rather than on my business. And it's hard to set up.
Yeah.
But getting the support and the ongoing micro steps of, you know, because I mean, this is my second round with you, and actually getting to implement some of them and watching, you know, I got 3 systems set up in the last 2 weeks, and it's like, oh, there's now something it's curling my toes. It's just as sexy as anything else I do, which is really fun.
It's awesome.
So there's like, and then the other thing that I get from doing work with you is that it really is a spiritual upgrade for me. And so not only is my business going better, and I'm rebranding, and I'm going to have a new website, and I'm like, so I'm really happy I'm doing closer in work with you. Because I'm looking so forward to having that be launched and over there and let me do the work that I do.
Yeah.
Is the whole concept of pulling energy is changing my life. It's changing my life. People are like, oh, you're sick. You know, I almost died from COVID. And so there's a lot of still health stuff that I'm dealing with. And I'm like, just pull health through me, y'all. Mm-hmm. And they're like, what's that? And I said, just imagine health from the universe just streaming through my body to you, and let it stream through your body. I'm giving people this coaching now. You're worried about my health, stream health through me. Mm-hmm. There's a thing about pulling energy that is like you use the word magic a lot, that is genuinely magic for me.
Yeah. We can do real magic.
We can do real magic.
Yeah.
You know, you'd get clear, and then you say this with help, and it's like, it's here. Yeah. And I'm like, how can it be so easy? So that's the other thing that's coming. I've been so pretense and hard work. Okay. That's in our culture. You got to work hard. You got to pretend, and you got to work hard. And you're teaching me, and this cohort is teaching me and my colleagues, that it doesn't have to be so hard.
No. What if it can be easy?
And that's that yin place. And you and I've been talking about that. It's like me surrendering, because I've literally not had the energy to work hard. What a friggin' blessing.
Mm-hmm. And your business is booming with the yin energy.
I'm in the middle of my 3rd 6-figure year, and I struggled around $3,000 a month. Mm-hmm. You know, and what I'm doing with you is this leveraging piece of really growing so that I can really teach others what it is that has happened in my life, to their benefit, to their clients' benefit, to be able to do that. But you need a lot of structure around that to make that go well.
Yeah. big visions require big support.
Right.
Definitely.
So it's just like, I'm kind of here to camp out for a while
Yeah.
because it's a journey.
Well, I feel really blessed to have you along in magic and very pleased to hear that you're getting all of that out of it. And that is definitely my intention, to mix the magic and the grounded spiritual practice within systemizing our businesses so that we can have more ease and joy and support moving forward to actually live the lives of freedom and of bliss that we want to be. And I know that people who have been listening to this episode are probably really excited to learn more about mind clearing and the basics of clearing. And I know you have something coming up in a few months. If you're listening to this in the future and not in real time, this podcast, there's likely something like this still coming. But will you tell us what's coming soon from your business, Penelope?
Yeah. So I think it was the end of my first week of clearing training up in Canada that I was with Anjali, and I was standing in the back of the room and everybody was getting tested on it was model demo on how communication is handled. So one of the things that I got out of just that very first week was managing the communication cycle. I don't know if you've had any clients who have hijacked the session. You ask them a question and all of a sudden you're out on the moon and you have no idea how
That's
you
never happened to me.
The basics of clearing teaches you how to manage the communication cycle so they actually answer this question.
Mm.
And you can track. That's a subcycle. That's something that just went off track. So one of the things that I'm going to be doing in January is launching my first basics of clearing. And the basics of clearing is actually for anybody who wants to master communication and really be in contact with another person. So it can help you in really whatever position. But for me, it's the intent of really getting the basics into coaches and consultants and other service providers. I really want them to be able to manage their session structures better so that their clients are getting better results.
Mm.
And so it's actually going to eventually be a 3-part training of advanced. It's basically an advanced coaching training.
Mm-hmm.
The basics of clearing anybody can do. And I'm still working on how I'm going to teach it because there's no prescribed, this is how it's taught.
Right.
Like Lawrence is teaching us, he's supporting us and sourcing us and teaching, but nobody is saying this is how you teach.
Yeah. But I imagine anybody who's receiving that training is not just going to have better communication skills and clarity on how to move forward with their own dreams, but also to be able to use new techniques that increase your results is, I mean, indirectly and directly going to improve your business and improve your own life. So
Yeah.
I feel like these are skills that anybody who wants to expand beyond what they're currently creating for their clients or receiving income wise, this is a set of tools worth diving into very tangibly,
Yes.
realistically. Yeah.
Absolutely. So you're managing the communication cycle. There's a standard session format. How do you begin and end a session? How do you know that these parts are all handled? I teach the model demo.
Yeah.
So I teach the 3-dimensional visual clarity thing. One of the taglines that I've used out of that for a decade now is transforming problems into projects.
Awesome.
So it's all about present time. And then the ensuing modules for people that want to go further go into trauma clearing. They go into boundary formation, how to clear depression, and then deeper states. There's a whole thing.
Fantastic. So is mindclearcoaching.com is the best place for people to find out about that stuff?
Yes, as soon as it's launched, which will be soon. By the time you see this, my website will be launched.
Awesome.
So yes.
It's almost done. It's rebranding
so
is almost complete. Fantastic. Is there anywhere else that people should go to follow you or to learn more?
If they wanted to directly get in contact with me, the email that I've been using for years is PB as in Penelope Bell at penelopebellcoaching.com. And that email would be working for a long time.
Fantastic.
So
Awesome.
that one's working now. And then the other thing is that my private practice is almost full. So I will be launching other webinars and inexpensive workshops and different things. And And my YouTube channel will be up soon too.
Yeah. So if you know that you want private coaching, jump on the opportunity quick to get into Penelope's schedule, but otherwise more offerings will be coming soon. Thank you for being on the show, Penelope. And any last words of wisdom you want to share with people before we pop off?
Just keep going. Just keep going. Trust, get quiet enough to trust that voice that gets drowned out by everything frequent. And just keep trusting your own inner knowing.
Yes.
Truly.
Awesome. Thank you for that. And thank you everyone for listening. We will put the link to Penelope's website in the show notes for you to check out. Whatever happens, keep asking big questions and taking bold action because you are here for a reason. And we'll see you on next week's episode. Bye.